Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to our English learning podcast. My name is Linda, and I'm here with my friend Leo. Hi, Leo.
Hi, Linda, and hello to all our listeners. Today, we are going to talk about a story. It's a story about love, sad love. The story is about two people, Sarah and Jack.
Hi, Linda. And hello to all our listeners. Today, we are going to talk about a story. It's a story about love, sad love. The story is about two people, Sarah and Jack.
Yes, a sad love story. But don't worry, we will make it interesting for you. Our goal is to help you learn English while you enjoy listening. So, Leo, why don't we start by talking about Sarah and Jack? Who are they?
Great idea. Let's start with Sarah. Sarah is a young woman. She's about 25 years old. She's smart, kind, and she works as a teacher. She loves her job, and she loves helping children learn new things. But Sarah also has a secret. She is in love with someone.
Yes, and that someone is Jack. Jack is a bit older than Sarah, maybe 28 years old. He works at a company, and he's very busy with his job. Jack is a kind person, too. He likes Sarah, but things are not easy for them.
Right. Things are not easy at all. They met at a party, right?
Yes, they met at a friend's party. Sarah saw Jack across the room. She thought, wow, he's handsome. And Jack saw Sarah too. He thought she was very beautiful. They talked for the first time that night, and they had a lot of fun. They laughed, they danced, and they enjoyed the evening. It was like a dream for both of them.
But after the party, things became a little more complicated, didn't they?
Yes, that's right. After the party, they wanted to see each other more, but they were both very busy. Sarah had her teaching job, and Jack had to travel a lot for his work. Sometimes they could not meet for weeks. This made Sarah very sad because she missed Jack a lot.
And Jack, too, felt sad. He liked Sarah, but he wasn't sure what to do. He was busy, and he didn't know how to make time for their relationship. Sometimes he thought, maybe Sarah is better off without me.
Yes, and that's when things started to get difficult. Sarah would wait for Jack to call or send a message, but sometimes he was too busy. She felt lonely, and Jack felt guilty.
Oh no, that's so sad. They both wanted to be together, but life was getting in the way. Sarah started to wonder, does Jack really love me? Maybe he doesn't care about me as much as I care about him.
Exactly. And Jack started to think, am I hurting Sarah by being too busy? Should I just let her go so she can be happy?
This is where the story gets really emotional. It's sad because they both want to be together, but they don't know how to make it work. Sometimes, love is like that. It can be very difficult.
Yes, love can be hard, especially when two people don't have enough time for each other. But this is just the beginning of the story. We will talk more about what happens next in the next part of our podcast.
Yes, complicated means something that is not simple or easy. In the story, Sarah and Jack's relationship is complicated because they don't have enough time to be together.
That's a great idea. Let's go over a few. First, we have the word complicated. Do you know what it means, Leo?
That's right. And we also talked about lonely. If you feel lonely, it means you feel sad because you are alone, or because you miss someone.
Good explanation. And another word is relationship. A relationship is how two people are connected. For example, Sarah and Jack have a romantic relationship.
Great question, Linda. Thank you to everyone for listening today. We hope you enjoyed the story so far. And remember, you can always practice your English with us.
Perfect. Now, before we end, let's ask our listeners a question to think about. What do you think Sarah and Jack should do to make their relationship better? Think about it, and we'll talk more in the next episode.
That's right. They liked each other, but they were both so busy with their jobs. Sarah felt lonely, and Jack didn't know how to make time for their relationship. It's a tough situation, isn't it?
Yes, we talked about how Sarah and Jack met and how their relationship started to become difficult.
Yes, and Jack was feeling guilty. He liked Sarah, but he also felt like he wasn't doing enough to make her happy. He was always working, and even when he wasn't working, he felt tired. He started to worry that maybe he wasn't the right person for Sarah.
Yes, it really is, and things are about to get even more complicated. So let's continue with the story. After a few months of not seeing each other much, Sarah started feeling even more sad. She missed Jack, but she didn't know how to tell him.
Oh, that must have been hard for Sarah to say, but she was honest with him, which is good. What did Jack say?
Exactly. So one day, Sarah decided to talk to Jack. She called him and said, "Jack, we need to talk. I don't know if we are going in the right direction. I feel like you don't have time for me anymore."
It sounds like Jack was very confused. He loved Sarah, but he didn't know how to balance work and their relationship, and Sarah was feeling more and more alone.
Jack felt sad when he heard Sarah's words. He didn't want to lose her, but he didn't know how to fix things. He said, "Sarah, I really care about you, but I'm so busy with work. I don't want you to feel sad because of me."
I can imagine. It's hard to tell someone how you feel when the situation...
Yes, she was. Sarah said, "I love you, Jack, but I don't want to be in a relationship where I always feel like I'm waiting for you. I need someone who has time for me." It was a difficult conversation for both of them.
That sounds like Jack still cared about her a lot. He just needed to think about how he could make things better. What did Sarah say to that?
Well, Jack understood that Sarah was really hurt. He didn't want to lose her, but he also didn't know how to change his busy life. So he asked her for some time to think. He said, "Sarah, give me a little time. I want to figure this out. I don't want to lose you."
That was very honest of Sarah. It's important in any relationship to talk about what you need and what makes you happy, but at the same time, waiting for an answer can be really hard.
Sarah agreed to give Jack some time. She didn't want to end the relationship either, but she needed things to change. She said, "Okay, Jack, I'll wait, but I can't wait forever. Please think about what you really want."
Yes, it can. So after that conversation, Sarah and Jack didn't talk much for a few days. Jack was busy thinking, and Sarah was waiting, feeling very sad and unsure about the future. She was wondering, will Jack come back? Or is this the end of our love?
Yes, it can. So after that conversation, Sarah and Jack didn't talk much for a few days. Jack was busy thinking, and Sarah was waiting, feeling very sad and unsure about the future. She was wondering, will Jack come back? Or is this the end of our love?
Wow, that must have been really hard for Jack to say. He cared about Sarah, but he was honest about his limitations. What did Sarah do?
Exactly. It was a very hard time for both of them. And after a week, Jack finally called Sarah. He said, "Sarah, I've thought about everything. I don't want to lose you, but I don't know how to change my work situation right now. I don't want to make you wait forever."
And that's when things became really sad. Jack didn't want to break up, but he also didn't want to hurt Sarah anymore by not being there for her. So, they decided to take a break. They weren't breaking up completely, but they both agreed to take some time apart to think about what they really wanted.
Sarah listened carefully. She knew Jack was trying to be honest, but it wasn't what she wanted to hear. She said, "Jack, I love you, but I can't keep feeling like this. I need someone who can be with me, who can make time for me."
It's a tough situation, but sometimes, taking a break helps people think clearly. Maybe some time apart will help them understand what they really want.
Yes, it was a really emotional decision. They still loved each other, but sometimes love alone isn't enough when life gets in the way. They needed to figure out if they could really be together or if they were just making each other sad.
I can't wait to hear what happens. But before we go, practice some English like we did last time.
Maybe, but we'll have to wait and see what happens next. In the next part of the story, we'll find out how Sarah and Jack feel during their time apart and whether they decide to stay together or move on.
Yes, and another word we used is pressure. Pressurize when you feel stressed or worried, because you have a lot of things to think about or do. Jack felt a lot of pressure to make a decision.
Good idea. Let's go over some of the words from today's episode. First, we have the word honest. Being honest means telling the truth, even when it's hard. In the story, Sarah was honest with Jack about her feelings.
Perfect. Now, before we end, we have a question for our listeners again. Do you think taking a break was the right decision for Sarah and Jack? Or do you think they should have stayed together and tried to make it work?
Good, and the last word is break. When do people in a relationship take a break? It means they stop seeing each other for a while to think about their feelings. Sarah and Jack decided to take a break to figure out what they want.
We are going to talk more about sad love between Sarah and Jack. Things have gotten really emotional, haven't they?
That's a great question. Leo, think about it, listeners, and we'll talk more in the next episode.
That's right. Taking a break is not easy, but sometimes it helps people understand their feelings better. So, what happened next, Linda?
Yes, they have. Last time, we talked about how Sarah and Jack decided to take a break. They still loved each other, but they weren't sure if they could stay together because Jack was so busy with his work. Now both of them are spending some time apart, thinking about their relationship.
That must have been hard for her, but it's good that she was thinking about her own happiness. And what about Jack? How did he feel?
Well, during the break, Sarah felt very sad. She missed Jack a lot. She missed their talks, their laughs, and all the good times they had together. But at the same time, she felt a little better because she wasn't waiting for him all the time. She started thinking about her future and what she really wanted.
Oh, that's interesting. So, even though Jack thought work was the problem, he realized that his life wasn't as good without Sarah. What did he do next?
Jack was sad too. He missed Sarah very much. But just like Sarah, he also felt a little bit of relief. He didn't feel the pressure of trying to balance work and their relationship at the same time. He was still busy with his job, but without the relationship, he realized something important. He wasn't happy without Sarah in his life.
Oh, I imagine Sarah's heart must have been beating fast when she got that call. What did she say?
Well, after a few weeks of thinking, Jack decided to talk to Sarah. He realized that he needed to make some changes in his life if he wanted to be with her. So one day, he called her and asked if they could meet.
I can imagine. After taking a break, it's always hard to know what the other person is thinking. So, what happened at the park?
Sarah was surprised, but she agreed to meet. They decided to meet at the park where they used to go for walks together. When they saw each other, it was a bit awkward at first. They hadn't spoken for weeks, and both of them were nervous.
Wow. That's a big step for Jack. It sounds like he finally understood that love needs time and effort, just like work does.
Well, Jack was the first to speak. He looked at Sarah and said, "I've been thinking a lot during this break, and I realized something important. I don't want to lose you, Sarah. I know I've been too busy with work, but I'm willing to make changes. I'll find a way to make more time for you, for us."
That's understandable. Sarah needed to protect her heart. What did she say to Jack?
Yes, exactly. Jack understood that he couldn't have a happy life without making space for the people he loves. Sarah listened to him, but she wasn't sure at first. She had been hurt by Jack's busy schedule, and she didn't want to go back to feeling lonely again.
That's a really honest response from Sarah. She loved Jack, but she needed proof that things would really change.
Sarah took a deep breath and said, "Jack, I love you, too. But I can't go through this again. I need to know that you're really going to make time for me, not just promise it. I need to feel like I'm important to you."
That's a big promise. It sounds like Jack is really ready to make changes for the relationship. How did Sarah feel about that?
Yes, she was being careful with her heart, which is very important in a relationship. Jack understood how serious Sarah was, so he made her a promise. He said, "I'm going to talk to my boss and ask for less work travel. I'll make sure I have more time for us. You're the most important person in my life, and I don't want to lose you again.
That makes sense. Sarah wanted to believe Jack, but actions speak louder than words. What happened next?
Sarah was happy to hear Jack's promise, but she still wanted to wait and see if he would follow through. She told him, "Okay, Jack, I'll give you another chance. But please, show me that things will be different this time."
That's great. It sounds like Jack was really trying to make things work. And how did Sarah feel during this time?
After that conversation, they decided to slowly start seeing each other again. Jack made sure to call her more often, and he even surprised her with small dates. He was showing her that he was serious about making time for her.
Exactly. Relationships aren't always easy, but when both people care and put in effort, things can get better. It sounds like Sarah and Jack were on the right track.
Sarah started to feel hopeful again. She saw that Jack was really making an effort, and it made her happy. They weren't perfect, but they were trying. Sometimes, that's the most important thing in a relationship. Both people need to try.
I can't wait to see how things end for Sarah and Jack. But before we go, let's practice some English with our listeners.
Yes, they were, but we're not done with the story yet. There's still more to come, and we'll find out what happens next in part 4, the final part of our story.
That's right. And another word is effort. Effort means trying hard to do something. Jack made an effort to change his work schedule so he could spend more time with Sarah.
Good idea. Let's go over a few words from today's episode. First, we have the word relief. When you feel relief, it means you feel better after something difficult or stressful. For example, during the break, both Sarah and Jack felt a little relief because they didn't have to worry so much about their relationship.
Perfect. Now, as always, we have a question for our listeners. Do you think Jack will really follow through on his promise to make more time for Sarah? Or do you think he might get busy again?
Good, and finally, we have the phrase follow through. When you follow through, it means you do what you say you're going to do. Sarah wanted to see if Jack would follow through on his promise to make more time for her.
Good idea. Before we talked about how Jack finally realized that he didn't want to lose Sarah. He promised to make changes and show her that she was important. Sarah agreed to give him another chance, but she wanted to see if he would really follow through.
And it's been a long and emotional journey for them, and today we'll see if their love is strong enough to survive all the challenges.
All right. So, after a few months of trying, things between Sarah and Jack were going well. Jack had spoken to his boss and arranged for less travel. He was calling Sarah every day and making sure they had time to meet on weekends. Sarah was happy to see that Jack was serious about their relationship.
Exactly. So, after that conversation, Jack made a big effort to spend more time with Sarah. They started to see each other more often, and things seemed to be getting better. But the question is, can Jack really keep his promise? Let's continue the story and find out.
Yes, she did. But even though things were better, Sarah still had some doubts. She couldn't forget how lonely she had felt before. One day, Sarah and Jack went for a walk in the same park where they had met after their break. Sarah decided to have a serious talk with Jack.
That's great to hear. It sounds like Jack really made an effort, and Sarah must have felt more secure in the relationship.
Okay, Sarah said, "Jack, I'm happy that you've been trying so hard to make things work, but I'm still worried. What if you get busy again? What if things go back to the way they were?"
Oh no, what did she say? That's a great question. Leo, think about it, listeners, and we'll talk more about it.
Jack was quiet for a moment, but then he said, "Sarah, I understand why you feel this way. I know I hurt you before, and I can't promise that things will always be perfect, but I promise I will always try. I love you, and I want us to be together."
That must have been hard for Jack to hear. Even though he was doing his best, Sarah still felt unsure. What did Jack say?
Yes, it did. Sarah thought about Jack's words and realized that he was being honest. No relationship is perfect, and sometimes life gets busy. But what really mattered was that Jack was willing to try and make the relationship a priority.
That's a very honest answer from Jack. He couldn't guarantee that things would never be difficult again, but he promised to keep working on the relationship. Did that help Sarah feel better?
Sarah looked at Jack and said, I love you too, Jack. I believe you, and I'm ready to move forward. Let's build a future together, and we'll face whatever challenges come our way, together.
That's a very important lesson. In any relationship, there will be challenges, but both people need to put in the effort to make it work. So, what did Sarah decide?
Yes, they knew that love isn't just about the happy moments, but also about staying strong during the hard times. Jack kept his promise and found a better balance between work and his relationship. Sarah felt more secure, and they both worked hard to keep their love alive.
Wow, that's so beautiful. So, they decided to stay together and continue building their relationship, even though they knew it wouldn't always be easy.
Exactly. And I think that's a great lesson for all of us. Love isn't always easy, but when two people care about each other and are willing to put in the effort, they can get through the tough times. Sarah and Jack's story shows us that.
I'm so happy for them. It's such a good ending to a sad and complicated love story. In the end, their love was strong enough to survive because they were both willing to make changes and try their best for each other.
Sure. First, we have the word priority. A priority is something that is very important. In the story, Jack learned that Sarah needed to be a priority in his life, not just an afterthought.
Yes, it does. And now, before we finish, let's do our usual English practice. Let's talk about some important words from today's episode.
Good explanation. And lastly, we have the phrase, move forward. When you move forward, it means you stop focusing on the past and start thinking about the future. In the story, Sarah and Jack decided to move forward together, leaving their problems behind.
That's right. And another word is secure. When you feel secure, it means you feel safe and confident about something. After Jack made changes, Sarah started to feel more secure in the relationship.
That's a great question, Linda. Think about it, listeners, and try to answer in English.
Perfect. Now we have our final question for our listeners. What do you think was the most important thing that Sarah and Jack learned during their relationship?
Yes, and remember, even though this is the end of Sarah and Jack's story, it's not the end of your English learning journey. Keep practicing, keep listening, and keep improving.
Thank you so much for joining us for this story. We hope you enjoyed listening, and we hope it helped you practice your English in a fun way.
Goodbye, everyone. Keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next time.
We're so proud of all of you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep learning, and goodbye for now.
Goodbye, everyone. Keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next time.